Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought it would be a great idea as last year it was, I did the 365 days of art where I just kind of created these little pieces of artwork just as a way, honestly, to just create. Every single day, it was like a painting a day for 365 days. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to just walk you guys through my process of doing it all. And maybe you'll be inspired to kind of create your own little series of little tiny paintings, or like a 100-day project or a 365-day project. So I thought that it would be kind of a neat video just to show you guys, and I hope that you will enjoy watching this. If you're new here, thank you of course for being here, and if you've been around for a while, I just truly appreciate you guys honestly being here and just the love and the support and always the kind comments. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the materials and such that I use. I knew that as I was doing it, I wanted to keep it very, very simple. So I'm working on, and I always worked on, the Strathmore Bristol ATC cards, which are 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches, and I just picked up a bunch of these from my local art supply store. I have gesso that I use to put a thin layer over every single card, and just a variety of acrylic paints. For the majority of them, I used Lucas paints, Amsterdam paints, and oh, here it is right here. Probably my most favorite is, and I've been through like 5 or 6 of these. It's the Sennelier Abstract number 615. That's the cadmium orange, red orange, and I just love just how rich and opaque this color was to give things a punch. So I honestly just kept my supplies very, very simple. The Jerry's Jumbo Jet Black Pencil, and a variety of brushes and a palette knife. Like, because the painting is relatively small, I'm gonna grab another brush here. I used a Polar Flow, just a small, like 1/2 inch is what this is. And then a couple of other tiny brushes to get myself in some detail. And I will try to find all of these and link them in the description. So let's just go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I honestly do is, I would honestly do this far ahead of time, is put some gesso on these cards because I wanted to give them some tooth, because I just never honestly knew what I was going to end up doing. This is my very filthy palette, and I kind of lay out my colors with white, and you honestly only need a tiny bit of paint. So I've got some white, some Indian yellow from Lucas, some carmine from Lucas, some light rose from Lucas. Here's that Sennelier 615. And then on this side, you see there's a totally different color story, because as I'm working, I put out all the colors that I might think that I'm going to use, even if they are not necessarily used in a painting, but I just honestly go with it. So I've got some mauve, some beige, some, I think this one is fern from Lucas, some turquoise from Lucas, and light gray. So everything here is Lucas except for the Sennelier Abstract. And I'm going to put myself a tiny bit of gesso here and just kind of walk you through exactly what is done. So, oh, and I should also say, I always end up putting on, and now, oh, here it is. I've lost my tube. Some gloves in a bottle on my hands, just because I always start with a brush, but then I end up going right in with my fingers, and I always like to have that there to just kind of protect my fingers. So I will get myself just my small 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch flat brush, and I'm just going to, oops, my brush is dirty. I am just going to put a light layer of gesso here, and I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer and do another one. But I find that you really don't need a lot. I just want the ability for my paints and such that I put on top to be able to move around. And so a really thin layer of gesso is perfect. I also will sometimes, and here's probably a better example, leave in some brush strokes there just for some texture. And I sit those off to dry. I do end up doing, say, a bunch of them at the time, so that as I'm getting ready to work, I don't have to wait around for them to dry. So I've got 4 of them here that are dry and ready to go. And I just take myself some blue painter's tape, because I'm gonna stick them down, and I'm just working on one of those craft mats just for, honestly, just for ease of cleanup later. And for me, I will stick them down so that they won't end up moving all over the place as I'm working. And I find that my setup is pretty important so that I don't have to worry about things when I get going. I'm going to do maybe one of each. And okay, I should back up and preface that I like to work 4 at a time, so that or for today I'm going to work 4 at a time, so that out of the 4, let's hope that one of them will look pretty decent. These photos, or these little tiny paintings that I started in January of 2018, are all posted on my Instagram channel. And I decided when I did this project that I would post them to hold myself accountable, so that, because I know me, and I start something, and then like the first day it's like, oh yay, this is great, and then by the second day or third day or the next week I'm kind of over it. So I started posting them to my Instagram channel, so that I would hold myself accountable and show up every day to get the 365 days all done. So I've got some in portrait, some in landscape, and this is just kind of how they start. I don't know if this is honestly my way of showing up when I paint, but because now I've got myself a nice crisp white surface, I always end up coming in with my Jerry's Jumbo Jet black pencil, and I'm just gonna start making a mark so that I can, I guess, loosen myself up and get ready to get some painting done. So I just kind of come in. To be honest, it does not matter what the marks look like right now, because this is going to be background noise, I guess, in just a bit, because as I make this mark to kind of show up and get rid of the blank space, I don't know why I do it, but I always have. I will immediately come in with some white paint, almost as like, yeah, okay, now I'm the boss of this little tiny canvas, but I'm going to now back out and maybe apologize. I'm not sure, but I always come in and cover that mark. And the one reason why I absolutely love this pencil so very much is that the mark is very dark. And so see how I can get myself some, and I'm gonna try to zoom in, but you get yourself some really nice grays here, and let's see if I can show you. Just from blending those out, I can get myself some really nice grays going. And then, okay, so I've made myself a mark to kind of show up and show this little tiny canvas that I am the boss. And then I immediately take that mark away. I don't know why, but I guess it's just to kind of get started, maybe. And now I guess the next part of my whole process is I am just going to cover these with paint, which is why I go ahead and lay everything out on my palette so that I don't have to think about it anymore. And the one thing that I would suggest is whatever acrylic paints that you have, go ahead and spend some time in your sketchbook getting used to those colors, mixing the colors together to kind of see what color combinations you get, so that by the time you get to this point, you don't even have to think about things. You just work very, very quickly. I've got my palette spread out this way, but I'll probably stick to this side or this side, or this side as I'm working. And I'm so sorry this is so dirty. But I am just going to get started with covering this up. So I've started with some yellow, and I am honestly, I don't really care at this point, and I keep sitting down and standing up as I'm working, but I hope that it all stays in frame. So I'm gonna move there. But I hope, or I should say, my only plan at this point is to honestly just get this entire little surface covered with paint. And it honestly doesn't matter for me right now what it looks like. All I know is that I just want to cover it with paint. So I've got some reds and yellows and pinks here. I'm gonna go up on this one and add some gray, and let's see what that does. And maybe even a little bit of this turquoise. All I'm doing, because I spend a lot of time with my Lucas paints, so I guess I should say I'm a little more comfortable with what the color combinations are. The one thing that I loved about doing these in their tiny portions is that if I made a mess of something, it's just a tiny little piece of paper that I did not mind throwing away later. So let's do on this one and see. Now I want to make sure that I don't end up overthinking it. I am going to just come in. But what I want to do, in all honesty, is just work as fast as I can. Put some beige on this one. Don't overthink it. Because I am working pretty quickly, I keep a paper towel here to clean off my hands as I'm going. And to me, in all honesty, it's okay if a little bit of red smudges on something, because right now I'm just working to cover this up. And I think about this whole part as pretend that you are getting dressed to go out to a fancy dinner party or something of that sort. And you go to your closet, you pull out your clothes. For me, these are the clothes. And now you're just getting dressed. And by that, I mean you're just gonna like go and put your clothes on. So this whole part is just me putting paint on this surface, not really paying a whole lot of attention to what things are gonna look like, other than just getting my clothes on to go to this party. At this point, I've got 4 going. I'm going to let them dry very, very well so that I can come in and, like at that dinner party scenario, you've put your clothes on. Now we need to add in our jewelry or our final details to kind of pull that outfit together. So that is what I'm going to do next once this is all dry. Okay, so I've left them to dry for about 10-ish minutes or so. And now that I have everything covered as far as all of the clothes on the canvas, or all of the color here on the surface, I am now going to start adding details. And I will just start now, instead of working on 4 at the time. I'm just going to clean this off. Instead of working on 4 at the time, now I'm just going to pick one and kind of go in with details. And it honestly doesn't matter which one you choose or which colorway that you choose. It's just picking one. All right, and so this is why I use this little craft mat thing, because the cleanup is just so much easier. So I'm gonna get myself the extra tape, and I'll just start with this one, and we'll just kind of work our way around and see what happens. So one thing that I use here in my studio, and I've got a larger one that's on my wall where I paint on like my easel, and so there's a large one on my wall, and that is these color wheels. So I've got one here by Bob Burridge, and I just love to reference this one because it'll give you like a color story that kind of goes with this. So the larger ones of these just kind of hang out on my studio wall. And then I've got a really tiny one of these that stays in one of my sketchbooks for when I travel. But I love to reference these guys, or one of these. If you don't have this one, they all work basically the same. Since like my main colors here are like reds and yellows and oranges, I now want to get myself, or find myself, a punch color, kind of like that statement piece of jewelry for your outfit or whatever. So if I'm looking at this, my entire painting so far is kind of in this reds and oranges and yellows. So I find my punch color completely opposite. So like a blue-green would really punch. Which I guess the closest I have here on my palette is this turquoise color. Same with this one, since everything is here, the dominant colors, let's just pretend, are right in here. So I can even go here for his spice color, or I always kind of like to just go opposite, but sometimes I will follow his spice color. But again, with either one of these, I just kind of look at it and just see what I have close enough. And so going across is this blue-green color, which is on my palette would be my turquoise. And so if my entire paintings were, say, blues and greens, my spice color or my punch color would be an orange, which is where I love to pull in this 615 with Sennelier. And so this is just something that I will kind of glance up at my studio wall as I'm working, so that if I'm ever lost or stuck on what I should do next, I kind of reference that and I go. So I get my Jumbo Jet black pencil, and now that I've got everything covered, I want to put those marks back onto my painting. And I like this Jumbo Jet black pencil because it is just a really, really, really nice dark mark. And so when I started in the beginning, if you'll remember, I don't really pay attention to the marks that I make or whatever. I just literally there's just something that fascinates me about the whole mark making process. And as with everything that I usually do, I try not to overthink it in the slightest. So I just come in with my pencil and let's just go like so. And so I've made my mark here, and I'm gonna pull in some of my tiny brushes now so that I can add in some detail. From my color wheel, remember I said that oranges, I need to get my punch color being that blue-green. So I'm just gonna get a little bit of my turquoise here, and I'm working with just a tiny brush. And now I'm just gonna kind of go in and start adding some details. So maybe like that. Maybe a little something up here in this little corner, and then maybe down there. And I'm gonna pull it in just a tiny bit closer and show you what I did. I just had some turquoise on my brush. I put 1, 2, 3 here, a little bit right here, and then another little bit right down there. And then I'm gonna get my pencil and just kind of come back with some more marks. And then a lot of times what I like to do is just take a round brush, and I'll show you here in my palette. I'm going to almost make like a soup, I guess, and this is one where I had to practice, where if I make it too runny, it almost looks like dirty water, but I want it to just be able to make a few splatters. And oops, I'm gonna call this guy done. And now let's just clean up here for a bit and work our way around this guy. Now, another thing that I always like to pay attention to is this one. I think I started it in this orientation. I can leave it there, of course, or kind of go, I think I am going to leave it there. And then I will clean my brushes, and I'm going to scoot it up a bit so that you guys can see, and sit down in my chair again. And for this one, what if I just go like so, and maybe like that. And now I get my, oh, here's my tiny brush again. Let me just clean it off really, really well. And for this one, I think I'm just gonna use this orange. And just start adding in some details. The one thing that I love about this is that, in all honesty, regardless of if I feel as though the whole thing is just kind of a mess, I always find that there really is, I guess, no love lost, because it is such a tiny sheet of paper. So I never ever let that part bother me. I just knew that I wanted to do this whole thing just as a way, in all honesty, to paint every single day, because I figured if I am painting every single day, I felt as though I had to get better. And so I'm just gonna, that's kind of the only reason why I just felt as though it was just something that I wanted to do, just to kind of, I don't know, get better. Alrighty, so, I'm gonna grab myself another super tiny brush, and I'm again making myself a little bit of soup-ish, but I wonder if, since I've got, hold on, I think I'm gonna get a darker paint. One second. Okay, since I've gotten some orange and the whole background vibe of this just looks very, I guess, dark, I think I'm going to try my splatters with some Payne's Gray. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that on my palette. And then, now that I'm looking at this, that little tiny dot there, I'm not sure if I kind of like it, because then it almost makes me think that it's just a bit too pristine. So I'm just going to grab myself a tiny pencil, and let's just see if I can kind of grunge it up some. So, I think I'm going to clean the orange off of my brush. And now that, see, there's where, and this is what's honestly so very hard, is once I start playing with things, for some of them, it's super easy to do what I want to do and go, yes, it's done. And then for some, I just want to keep kind of playing with it. So I'm going to take my palette knife and, well, maybe you can see now that I've kind of put something on it, but I like using these types of palette knives, and this is just a regular Soho. They come in a pack of 5 at my local art supply store, but I like that it's got this little corner as well as this larger corner, and so for really tiny pieces, I will use this little corner, and I'm just going to take it and kind of go there to make it almost, there we are. All right, so I'm done with just kind of, I guess, see, I said I was done, and then here I go putting the paint back in, but I just want to extend that a bit, and then I just like to use that to almost kind of grunge things up, or since I had that little mark there, I wanted to kind of, I guess, keep it going or add it somewhere else. And so now I'm going to make that same almost soupy mixture with that Payne's Gray, and just kind of add myself some splatters, and I'm going to call that guy done. So while I work my way through these others, I am just going to kind of speed it up so that you guys can watch as I play. Again, as I'm just cleaning the edges off, but then I can kind of decide if I like it more of, I think I painted it in this direction. Do I like it this direction? And I think I'm liking this one here. And then I'll decide on this one here in just a bit. So, I am just gonna keep playing. So, like I said, this was just a neat little project that I did for the entire year of 19, January of 2019, January 1st through December 31st. And it was a lot of fun. You'll notice that quite a few of these colors I really didn't use. Maybe I did use them all, maybe not. But it was just a fun way for me to learn to just trust myself with my colors, create little tiny paintings that, you know, even with the leftover paints, I would then create something larger, or these little guys happened as a result of leftover paint from a larger project. And then I would end up making them into little tiny cards, which I will insert a screenshot or a photo of that here at the end. But I just wanted to share my process with you guys, and I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.